All right. Hello. I am Jessica Brown, Mrs. Colorado Universal 2021, and this is Beyond the Barbie Powerhouse Paper Dolls, going below the surface with beautiful, influential women to find out who inspires the women who inspire us. Joining me today is Heather Meyer. Heather and I have gone back for a few years, but we are pageant friends who then became real world friends. Heather, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So how did we meet? Do you remember? I'm thinking it was the appearance at the animal rescue.
And I think even before that, it was the last year maybe that I competed at Mrs. Colorado.
Oh, maybe
through some mutual friends.
Well, in the age of Facebook, I don't know where I know anybody.
I know.
You know,
I have friends that people will recognize me out in public, and I'm like, I have to be Facebook friends with them, but I have no idea who that is.
Yes. Well, and people look different than they do on Facebook, or they don't have their, they'll have a flower as their profile picture. Right. But in this day and age, I don't know from where I know anyone, but I know that we are from the pageant world. Yes. And we have causes that are both near and dear to our hearts. And so I would like to start where I start everyone with who has inspired you.
Yeah. For me, that was I was thinking about that answer to that question, and that was a really hard question to answer because, and I don't even think I responded to that question when you asked me that. And that's because there are so many people that have inspired me in so many different ways. It was hard to narrow it down to just one person. There's, bits and pieces of different people's lives that they are things that people have brought into my life that have
absolutely
me and encouraged me. And so to kind of narrow that down to one person was really hard.
Well, so what comes to mind when I say who has had influence on you? Who has helped you become the person you are?
Yeah, I think that when I think about that, it's like the people who've encouraged me or supported me or who've just been there for me through difficult times. And like that, I also could think about people that I look up to in the pageant world or the modeling community and all of those things too, as like inspirations, women who have, maybe overcome things or, had, some very tragic events in their lives. I think, Danette, Haig, I always pronounce her last name wrong. But
I just introduced her as Danette.
Danette, yeah.
When she comes in and does speaking engagements with me, it's just Danette.
It's just Danette, yeah. But I mean, her story is incredible, and she's such an inspiration. So I look at women like her too. And so like that word inspiration kind of encompasses so much for me that it's hard to pick, or to label one person that has had the biggest.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because this is called Paper Dolls because I link each interview to the woman before and after with things that you have in common. And that is actually something that you had in common with Amy before you as well. That her answer, was that there's a bunch of people that, all of the people in her circle influence her and inspire her in some way. So that's a neat link between the two of you because that's a pretty significant connection. Your other two are funny connections, but I'm glad you have a significant connection as well. So your celebrity crush, you want to go ahead and tell who that is?
Yes, one of my celebrity crushes I did share with her. It was Jason Momoa.
Yep. You had quite the list though.
I did. Shamar Moore, Channing.
Yep. And you obviously like muscles, but you kind of hit the whole spectrum with celebrity crushes.
I don't have a type.
No, I don't either. I have a personality type, but not a physical type. Yeah. I want somebody who can make me laugh and make me feel loved. And, my standards have gotten higher and higher. And I think that the guy that I've wrangled has definitely helped with that. So you also had beach in common. And I want to know, mountains or beach is the question. Do you listen to like the sounds of waves as you're trying to fall asleep, or have you lived on a beach?
That was also my favorite sound. You asked the question, what is your favorite sound in the ocean? Favorite sound. And I have a sound machine for work because I'm a behavioral therapist by profession. So my sound machine is always set to the ocean waves. If I do like need something to like fall asleep or sound to fall asleep to, it usually is ocean themed.
Yes.
I love the ocean. That is my happy place and where I
Me
come
too.
alive. And if I am anywhere coastal, like I love going out to LA. LA is one of my happy places.
Have
And
you lived on a coast?
I have not. I grew
Yeah,
up,
me either.
but never lived on the coast. But, and I don't even care about getting in the ocean. Like, I don't
I
the
just want to
water.
stand there and
I
look at
just
it.
want to be on the sand and look at it and smell it and hear it.
Yes, I completely agree. I've always said that I'm a rainforest lizard. You know, there are different climates for different people. And just because I was born in Colorado, I was meant for heat and humidity.
Yes.
So you mentioned did you say occupational therapist?
Behavioral therapist.
Behavioral therapist. So what has brought you to this point in your life? What has influenced you getting you here?
Yeah, so I've had a number of things, specifically my own past personal experiences that have kind of led me into the field of helping people. I was diagnosed with trichotillomania when I was an early teenager. And at the time, we had to drive an hour to get to a psychiatrist who didn't even provide like any real therapy. It was just kind of.
Were they versed in TTM or not at that point?
Not even really. Like there's so little known about it then and still now that, you know, I don't think people knew what to do with it. So it was like, oh, let's just try this and throw medication at it. And that didn't work. But also I felt like I knew where my trichotillomania started. And I feel like mine stemmed as a coping mechanism from trauma. And they never got to a place where they could even ask me if there was anything that had happened to me or had gone on that might have been a result, that my trichotillomania might have been a result of. And as I got older and heard about people going into counseling and talked to people who were counselors and read books on it, and I began to realize like that there's a lot of people don't do justice if you have a cash pay client coming in for services. It's just like, come in, tell me what's going on with you now, and let's take care of it.
Yeah.
And they never really get to the underlying issue. I mean, I was like 10 years old when my trauma happened, and I didn't talk about it until I was in my early 30s.
Wow.
And because no one asked me, like, has any of this ever happened to you? Or have you experienced any of this?
Yeah.
And so that was just when I was going to school, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Broadcast journalism was what I initially wanted to do. And I found out really quickly there are too many people trying to do it and too few jobs.
Yep.
I kind of just gave up on that and just started taking classes to kind of figure out what I wanted to do or would be good at. And psychology ended up being a field where an area where I excelled. And I decided to become a counselor. And so that's one of the things that I've brought into my therapy is I don't care if you're a self-pay client, if you're an insurance client, I give full background history. Like I will ask you questions you probably don't want me to ask. I'm trying to get a good picture of what brought you to where you're at.
Well, having been the client, I'm sure helps you be the professional as well, because you know what you needed and didn't get. Both of my parents are psychotherapists. My mom is a PsyD and my dad is an MSW. And so in college, like I just gobbled up psychology classes. I just took everyone I could get my hands on. So, and I didn't want to finish my degree. I didn't want to go through a master's because I knew I wanted to work in dance. But the psychology classes, I feel like if everybody had that as part of their base curriculum, that we could just understand each other better and have more patience and tolerance. Because do you find that with your psychology training that you have more leeway for people, that you give them more grace because you can see, you know, from where they're working, you know, what their trauma is acting out on you? Does it give you more patience or less?
No, I think it definitely gives me more. My psychology background and sociology background, I think definitely gives me more patience with clients, because when you can better understand where they're coming from, you can better understand their response, their behavior, their reactions.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to change their reactions and their behaviors, and they're stemming from the way they were raised or what they experienced as a kid or their living environment or where they grew up or, you know, all of these things. And they really had no control over that. And it just became part of their life. And not in a healthy way.
Well, and you've taken your own personal story with TTM and reached out to help children. When did you write your book, and would you share that with us, please?
Yeah, so I wrote my book, Where's Your Hair? A Trichotillomania Story for Children. And I actually published it in 2018. So it was August of 2018 when I got that published.
And where is it available so I can help plug it?
Yeah,
Is that on Amazon?
BarnesandNobles.com, Amazon.com, Westbow Press, and you can reach out to me personally, and I mail out autographed copies for the same price.
Perfect.
Get them on.
Send me the link. I'll attach it to the video.
Perfect.
And so when you wrote this, it was pre-pandemic. Have you had the opportunity to share it in person? Have you gotten any feedback from kids?
Yeah, I've actually done a few book signings and some readings, which was really fun. So like I said, I published it in August of 2018. So I did a number of signings in 2019. And I have gotten great response from the book, far more than I imagined getting. Hair Club, I am a member of Hair Club with my trichotillomania.
Mm-hmm.
Hair Club, when I put out my book, they bought 400 copies and made it part of their Hair Club for Kids program. And so they do free services for children up to the age of 18.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Of hair disease, whether they're losing their hair because of cancer or alopecia or TTM or anything else. Children who are experiencing hair loss can get free services from them. And so they make
incredible.
Part of
and I work
program.
with children with hair loss. That's where I donated my hair, and they, work with the same people. So I'm in, that realm of the world, and I've never heard that. That's it.
Yes.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's really, really good to know.
Yeah, it's an amazing program. It's really an amazing program. And so that was super cool that they were willing to support me in that way and do that. And actually there was a little girl who, her name is Alyssa, who I have not met personally, but I've talked to her mom on the phone. I've talked to her and her mom through Facebook. She went to Hair Club. She has trichotillomania. She went to Hair Club, and she went down to their home office, and she was meeting people at the home office because she was working on a Girl Scout badge, and whatever her badge was had something to do with trichotillomania. And so they gave her a copy of my book, and they read the book, and her mom got a couple of extra copies from them down there, and then reached out to me and bought more copies back to where she lived in, it was Kentucky, I think is where they live, Kentucky or Tennessee. They went back home, and she started going around to places in her community and donating my book to those places. So the library, foster centers, the DHS, her school library, like all of these different places, and she donated them, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Amazing response, because this was the first book specifically for children on this topic. Mm-hmm. You can find books for adults, you can find books for therapists, but for
those who are watching and aren't familiar with TTM, how do you explain to someone who is a very layperson of all ages in 30 seconds, I guess, what TTM is?
Yeah, so TTM is a hair pulling disorder. So basically, in a nutshell, the person who has TTM pulls out their hair, and it could be from their head, from their eyebrows, their eyelashes, different areas of their body. But that basically sums it up. It's a hair pulling disorder.
Okay. So the eating of the hair, that's a separate disorder. That's pica. Am I correct?
That doesn't go, that's trichophilasia. You can actually, it's part of trichotillomania for some people. Not everyone with trichotillomania does that. Like that's one, like I've never done that.
Yeah.
I just pull my hair, and then it's just like you kind of just drop it to the ground or throw it in the trash. When I've done,
I had an instructor that had trichotillomania, and that's how I first learned about it. And it was right around the same time that I met you. And I thought that was very interesting, that something that I had never heard of my entire life. And then all of a sudden 2 people in my immediate circle had it, and we're talking about it. And so I wondered, what's that?
It's actually more common than you would think. That's
what I was thinking. Like, well, there must be more people that I don't know about. For there to be 2 people talking about it in my small circle, it must be considerably more common. Do you have any numbers as to, how prevalent this is in our society?
So actually, so Trichotillomania is a body-focused repetitive behavior. And so that includes skin picking, so like obsessive skin picking, and also like nail biting, or so people who bite their nails down past the quick, like they never have nails, or they bite them down to where they're bleeding. Like those sorts of things are a body-focused repetitive behavior disorder. And about 1 in 20 people have one of those. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Really fairly common.
Wow, that's interesting. Huh. So what has been and I know this wasn't on your questionnaire, but of all of the times that you've taken your book around and you've spoken on the subject, what was the most memorable moment or most impactful moment on you? I mean, this is obviously very impactful on other people, but I want to know who has had an influence on you doing this.
Writing my book. It was actually a client. I had this 14-year-old girl who I was seeing, she was on the autism spectrum, nonverbal. And she would come in and I would see her with her stepmom, and she started pulling her hair, and her mom came in and she told me about it. And she said her OT said that she has trichotillomania, and she started giving me a lot of information that the OT had given her. And I was like, okay, so like, just want to clarify that the OT has the name of the disorder right, but these other things are in. And so,
well, that's pretty unethical to be diagnosing through the DSM when it's not your your specialty.
Yeah, exactly. And so I told the mom,
any more than you starting to do occupational therapy in the middle of your session.
Right. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I told the mom, like I gave the mom more accurate information, but I decided, like with a lot of my kids, I read stories to them, and I read the stories to them so that they can understand that they're not alone, that other kids deal with these issues that they're dealing with too, and to give them information. And so I went looking for a story to read for her after she left my office, and I couldn't find anything for kids. Everything was, big, thick books for adults, books for therapists, books for parents of kids with it, but nothing for kids. And so I was like, I'd always wanted to write a book. And so I was like, I'm going to write a book. And so I sat down literally in my office right after she left, in 10 minutes, wrote out the book. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
Personal experience. And it took me longer to divide up the pages and decide what pages and how I wanted the illustrations than it did to actually write the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Same for me. When I did my first book, that the actual content was rather easy, and it was more, frankly, it was the illustrations. I had to wait for my husband to finish the illustrations, and he took a very long time, and even longer with the second book. But, when the help is free.
Right, exactly. And I sent my story to my mom and told her where I wanted illustrations, and then she did the illustrations for me.
Oh, I didn't know that. How lovely.
Yeah, my mom just sketched out the illustrations in black and white, and then the publishing company added the color to it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we had a colorist as well. Sketched them, and then somebody colored them. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. So I'm assuming that your book is tied into your legacy, but on a bigger scale, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, I want my legacy to just for everyone to understand that regardless of what your disability is, what your any of the issues that you may be struggling with are, that you can do anything that you set your mind to if you want it bad enough and you're willing to work for it. I spent my whole life trying to hide my trichotillomania. I wasn't comfortable with it. I didn't want anyone to know I did it. So I would go to great lengths to hide it. And it wasn't until I began to embrace it through competing with them at the Mrs. Colorado pageant, seeing these amazing women who were like competing for their own reasons and so open about their struggles, what they were going through, that I was like, oh, like I can talk about this. Yeah. And those were the years when I first started talking publicly about it. And since then, and since embracing it rather than trying to hide it, I've not only written a book, I was crowned Ms. Woman Colorado, United States for 2017 and got to compete at the national competition. Because of that, I got to be on national television. I got to be on ABC's The Proposal when that came out in 2018. so I got to do that. Hair Club was one of my sponsors for the pageant, which was exactly how I got involved with them. They brought me out to LA for 9 days and filmed an infomercial. So I got to be part of their
Oh
infomercial.
my goodness, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the infomercial that's running right now. I'm in it.
Oh, do you have a clip of it on your Facebook page?
I do.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
And then, and from all of that, it's led to me being in movies. I got to be in my first feature-length film. I've been walking the runways in Denver, and in February, I'm walking in New York Fashion Week. And
oh, wow.
It's just
congratulations, Heather. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So I've seen that you've just been absolutely taking off. You must be working really hard to be having opportunities like this, because this is not stuff that falls into your lap. This is hard work.
No, and I think too, it's embracing who I am now at this point.
Oh, yeah.
When I was hiding who I was, it didn't work. I wasn't being successful because I was trying to hide everything, not being myself. And now that I've embraced it and I'm just real and honest with it and about it, it's a completely different world, and people don't care.
Same with my sobriety. Weird. The expectation of what their reactions would be was disproportionately much better than I expected. I expected a few people to be okay and most people to be, cut off ties. And it was really the opposite. Yeah. And that feeling of living your truth, as flighty as that sounds, is really accurate. That just being who you actually are, life is just so much better and easier.
It is.
There's ways that we kid ourselves or deceive ourselves when we're trying to hide our flaws. And it just is, it's tiring. It's really tiring.
It is. And you have no emotional energy to give anywhere else.
No.
No. Now, not having to worry about that, that's energy I can put into pursuing my goals and dreams. And that's what I want other people to just take away, is that, I think we care more and we notice more our flaws and our disabilities and the things that we don't like about ourselves than other people do. Other people don't care. Other people, if you're who you are and you're being your true self, that's what people want. They don't care if you're struggling with TTM or alopecia or, whatever it might be. As long as you're being your true self, they will embrace you. And that's when you start becoming successful.
Absolutely. And that's such a strong message. I'm so glad that you're out there doing that. And I so enjoy watching your career and seeing you do well. I'm in awe of how hard you're working and how much you're pulling together. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. I so appreciate that.
And I will get a copy of your book to read for story time as well.
Yes, that would be awesome. I will send you one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Heather, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you stopping in virtually.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is Powerhouse Paper Dolls Beyond the Barbie. I am Jessica Brown, Mrs. Colorado Universal 2021. Thanks for stopping in.